Good morning. This recording is for Pre-Algebra Chapter 6, Lesson 10, Making a Table. This lesson is particularly tedious with the tables, but knowing how to make a table will really help you out next year, considering you're going to learn how to set up equations using a table, so I want you to be as comfortable with making a table as possible. If you are using your iPad, go ahead and make tables in your iPad, because it will save you time. Because they're really easy to change and whatnot, because it's an iPad. All right, so here's our example problem. At the beginning of the year 2000, the population of the United States was about 273.5 million. The rate of population growth was about 0.85% per year. So this is less than 1% per year. All right, so it's not increasing very much, but it is still increasing. If the rate continues, what will the population be at the beginning of 2010? What information are you asked to find? Well, you are asked to find what the population will be at the beginning of 2010. So, now I'm writing my answers in complete sentences where I actually mention part of the question as part of my answer. You should get used to doing this as well, because even in math, you need to be able to write in complete sentences, and especially next year, you will be asked to do a lot of this. So you better get used to it now. All right. And you're probably going to be asked to do it for the rest of the year, which I will be asking you to do. So please write in full and complete sentences. So the question is, what information are you asked to find? The answer, we are asked to find the population of the United States at the beginning of the year 2010. Easy, cheesy, lemon squeezy. Next question, what information will you need to use to solve the problem? Well, we're going to need the population in 2000, and we're going to need the population rate. So, to answer this question, we will need to know the starting population size and the growth rate, which happens to be right there and right there. So we've got all the information we need, we just need to do some math with it. But first, another question. Question number 3, which is right there, guys. We are going to use a table to organize our data. And the next question is, how can we find the increase in population from the beginning of 2000 to the end of that year? Well, we're starting out with 273.5 million people at the beginning of 2000. And we're going to make an increase of 0.85%. Well, that means that we're going to determine the increase in population from the beginning to the end of 2000, we must multiply the beginning population and the rate. And remember, we're going to do it as a decimal. That's what this whole chapter is about. Basically turning percents into decimals and then multiplying or then dividing. Okay, so we're going to do some multiplication. Next question, how can you find the population at the beginning of 2001? Well, the nice thing is there's not much difference between December 31st at 11:59 p.m. than there is on January 1st midnight. Okay, so since there's no difference, we're just going to use the number previous at the end of the previous year to mean the beginning of the next year. Alright, so the population at the beginning of 2001 should be the same as the ending population of 2000. So let's go ahead and look at this table. Oh, sorry, I skipped ahead. Well, that's the answer to the question I haven't asked yet. Alright, so the percent of increase is the same each year. Does that mean that the increase in population will also be the same each year? And the answer is no. Just because we're taking 0.85% every year doesn't mean that the previous year hasn't gained more in population than the year before. So because we're taking 0.85% of a different number each year, that means that the rate of the increase in population will also not be the same. Because eventually the percentage will represent a little bit more. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. So no, the increase in population will not be the same because the percent of increase is being used with a new population size each time. All right, now we're ready to take a look at this table. I've already made most of the table for you. Okay, so at the beginning of 2000, actually, I've already made a mistake here, and you'll probably notice it in just a second. The beginning population in 2000 was 273.5 million, and we're going to multiply that by the rate of increase, that is a decimal, which is going, so we're multiplying by the rate, which is going to equal the increase in population. Then, if we add the increase and the original population, we're going to get the end of population at the end of 2000. And then, as you can see in the next mistake, I wrote the wrong number for the starting of 2001. So, at the beginning of 2001, we actually have 275.8 million people. We are then going to multiply that by the percentage rate, get the new increase, add it up, and then get the end of your population. So as you can see, the next year, the end of 2001 is the beginning of 2002. And this is the same, and it moves on and on and on and on. So I already did some of this work for you, but let's go ahead and do the remaining of the table just to say we did it. Okay, so 290.1 million people times 0.0085 is going to give me 2.5. Add them up, and we're going to get the new population at the end of 2007, which is 292.6 million people. Start that off with the next year, and we're going to do it. Now, as you can see, I've got some decimals here, and that's because all of these previous numbers that we've had in this fourth column, 1, 2, 3, fourth column, have been rounded thus far, and they've been rounded to 1/10 of a million. So we're going to continue that, but as you can see, if I round to 1/10 of a million, the 2.46 actually becomes 2.5, and the same here. And that's why we actually see these increases, because even though they're actually relatively small increases, they do round to change the 1/10 of a millionth, which 1/10 of a million is still 100,000. So that is a lot of people. That is very significant. But again, we don't want to get this so overblown that we've got, like, whatever. You guys got it figured out, right? We're rounding, and that's important because otherwise these numbers would not be as pretty as they are over here in the fifth column. All right, so let's move on. So 292.6 plus 2.5 is going to give us 295.1, which is the start of the next year. Multiply again. The only thing is that I can skip this whole adding step if I multiply by 1.0058, and that is again the whole adding before multiplying as opposed to multiplying before adding, which I've been talking about nearly this entire chapter to help you skip steps. So if I am doing an increase, I'm actually I'm taking the original amount plus 0.0085 more, or 0.85% more. So it's mostly by multiplying by the percent increase plus 100% and then multiplying and still getting the same answer. You're going to have to round a little bit more, but it's still completely doable. And again, you can skip that step and move on, because we did actually get to the beginning of 2010, which was the original question. That's what they originally wanted, right? So technically we're done with this table, but make sure you hold on to that 297.6 so that we can use it for another question in just a second. All right, so number 6 makes sometimes the numbers in the fourth column change from one year to the next, and sometimes it does not change. Why is this? Well, it's because of what I just talked about. It's the rounding. The reason the fourth column changes sometimes but not others was because of rounding, because eventually that 1/10 of a million is going to come into play and it's going to change. All right, because again, we're dealing with bigger numbers in the population. My percent hasn't changed, but because the population itself is bigger each time I use the rate of change, I'm going to have a different increase in population. All right, number 7, last question. What is your prediction for the population at the beginning of 2010? Well, if you remember, we're supposed to be at the end of 2010 because we've already asked that question about the beginning. Sorry about the typo. All right, so let's take the population from the beginning of 2010, which is 297.6. We're going to multiply it by the percent increase, and it's going to get us the new amount, which is just over 300.1 million. And remember, I rounded the solution for this. This was actually not the beautiful answer it was. If I do it real quick, which was 297.8 times 1.0058, you get 300.3313. Oh, which means that in itself wasn't correct. Oh, and that, you know why? That's because I typed in the wrong thing. Give me 1 second. Much better. It was 300.1296, which means if I round, well, that's 300.1 million. There you go. All right, I'm done. Good luck with the tables, guys. Again, do them on the iPad just because then you don't have to, like, erase a ton if you make a mistake. All right, bye, guys.